20 years, stress and resiliency expert Beverly Beuermann-King has engaged performance leaders just like you and your team. She has created stress and resiliency strategies that are well researched, down to earth, and mesh well with busy lives.
I don't know about you, but for me, life often feels like I'm stuck in the sea in a storm, rather than being a hammock day at the beach. But these ups and downs of life that we create often create a lot of chaos for us as opposed to a sense of well-being. But there is something that we can do in order to make sure that we stay on course. So I have a couple of situations for you. I am the proud mom of 2 boys. Those 1.9 kids that we're supposed to be having actually look really good on paper. You know, those warm, loving feelings, those Facebook moments that we're supposed to have. But then there are those days when you're late for work and you need to get the kids off to school. One's whining that there's not enough peanut butter on his peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The other is getting lost on the way to the bathroom. He's having one of those squirrel moments, you know, where they find their Tonka trucks and their Hot Wheels cars. And you find them and you get them shoved into the car and you get in on the road and you get stuck in traffic. And you're pretty sure that there is a traffic light conspiracy going on. You drop them off, you get to work, 46.2 minutes later, everybody wants something from you. There's 100 messages all saying urgent, and in the back of your mind you want to say, take a bloody number, but you don't. And you hit save, and as you hit save, the screen goes black, and you lose it. Can you relate to any of those? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe it's more this way, where you're worn out, you're tired out, and you're just barely hanging on, and then you get the news. Maybe that a parent is sick. It may be that a friend has been in a car crash. It might even be that your top client refuses to sign the paperwork. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to take care of my family? How am I going to make sure that everybody's needs get met? Or maybe you've been promoted. Or maybe you were in a new team and you were thrown right in, no prep, expected to succeed. And you start doubting yourself and you think, oh, I don't think I can do this. And you start to feel really isolated and alone. Any of those sound familiar? Mm-hmm. What do they all have in common? Probably stress, right? Stress leading to chaos. And for many of us, you know, we've tried to figure out how do we deal with that chaos. And I'm often asked, how do you find the right strategies to deal with that chaos? Now, some people spout off all kinds of words of wisdom. You know, you should hold on to hope. You should look for the silver lining. Think happy thoughts. Surprisingly, with all the research that we have on stress management, hope is actually a good predictor of your resiliency. But hope is not what you think it is. There's a difference between whimsical hope and strategic hope. Whimsical hope is like waving a magic wand, hoping for something good to happen. It's fleeting, it's finicky, it's almost desperate. Strategic hope forces me to create strategy. Hope without strategy leaves us spinning. Hope is a process rather than a fleeting thought. From all the years of doing stress management workshops on mental health and stress, we talk about how do we put a process together? And I've come up with a resiliency process called SOS. Situation, ourself, and support. Situation, what am I going to do about the thing that's causing my stress? The O, how am I going to take care of myself? How am I going to make sure that I have the energy to do what I need to do? The last S stands for support. Who's there to support me as I meet those challenges? Strategic hope takes care of those components of SOS. So let's talk about the first one, situation. What are you going to do about the things that are causing you stress? And do you have the mindset to find those strategies? When we talk about where we're going, and I talk about dealing with negative attitudes and difficult people, and there are 4 different types of difficult people. Those that are optimistic, those that are pessimistic, negativistic, and apathetic. Optimistic people do something better than the other 3 groups. Any idea what that might be?
Smile?
Yeah, no, it's not about smiling. It's not putting, thinking good thoughts or looking for the silver lining. Those that have hope, those that are truly optimistic, they still get mad, they still get angry, they still stomp, scream, and shout, but they do something better than the other three groups. They go from that emotion, they don't get stuck in that emotion, and they move into problem solving. And so when we talk about how do we become more resilient, how do we deal with hope, it's by dealing with that emotion, going through that emotion into the problem solving mode. Now, emotions are complicated. You know, a measure of our toughness is about how we keep those emotions stuffed inside. And we'll say things such as, well, they didn't show fear. They didn't cry at the funeral. They kept a stiff upper lip. Our measure of toughness is not about how we keep those emotions inside, but how we go through those emotions and step into problem solving. Strategic hope requires us to be able to get into problem solving in spite of those emotions. The O stands for ourself. How do we take care of ourselves? But how do we take care of ourselves when there's so many other things that need our attention? Children that need to go to school, colleagues that have questions that need to be answered, customers that need us ASAP. Some of us become a martyr. We sacrifice ourselves for the sake of other people. There's a quote that I like that says, "How thin can I spread myself before I no longer exist?" How thin can I spread myself before I no longer exist? Sometimes when we're burned out, when we're tired out, we have nothing else to give. Strategic hope requires that we have energy. Strategic hope requires that that spark is there. Without that spark, hope can't ignite. And so how do we put energy back into ourselves? How do you reboot? One of my key strategies is following the likes of Winston Churchill, Thomas Edison, and John F. Kennedy. I am a serial napper. I plan my day out to include a nap, absolutely. I plan my day out to have a nap. I wake up refreshed, I'm more creative, and I'm ready to tackle the second half of my day. I also grew up on a family farm. And so for me, walking out at bare feet on the grass rejuvenates me. Feeling the heat of the sun, the coolness of the grass, the smell of the soil, and the beauty of the plants. It restores my soul. Now they call that earthing, and it gives me a sense of peace. But what works for me may not work for you. And what works for you may actually increase my stress. I'll give you an example of this. It was a beautiful, peaceful night. I was on the road, I had no children with me, no husband, I was completely alone, and I could pamper myself. Now, baths for me are a complete waste of time. In fact, they often actually increase my stress because I sit there thinking about all of my to-dos. But on this particular night, I thought I was going to try this. You see, my client had booked me into a very luxurious room, complete with chocolate, a jet tub, and bubble bath. Yay. So I started to fill up the tub. But then my impatience took over. So I hopped in, turned on the jets, tossed in the bubble bath, and put my head back. And I waited. And I tried to clear my mind. I tried to relax. What seemed like only a few seconds later, my eyes popped open. Huge fail. And then panic. The bubbles had expanded everywhere. They were flowing over the sides. I found that the taps for the water, I turned it off. I found the button for the jets, I turned it off. And then I started slapping the bubbles down, trying to get them to go back into the tub. You cannot open, or you cannot close Pandora's box once it's already been opened. The moral of the story, you need to find the right strategies for you. And you'll know if it's the right strategy, and if it's not, you need to find something else. Strategic hope requires that you have energy. It requires the right strategies, and the right strategies are the ones that ignite the spark of hope. The last S. The last S stands for support. Who do you talk to? Who do you vent to? Who's been there and done that? Research says that many of us are feeling alone, even in our society where we are more connected than ever. Research says that many of us are feeling isolated and almost hopeless. Strategic hope requires that we reach out, that we talk to people, that we vent to people, that we ask for help. Who's in your support circle? Do you have the right people in your support circle? I am where I am today because of the people around me. They have helped me, they have encouraged me both in my business and in my personal life. One that stands out for me, one particular memory, is on a day that I came home, a preteen young girl, to see that our barn was burning. Neighbors were scrambling everywhere, trying to save what they could. Aunts and uncles were trying to reassure us that everything was going to be okay. In the days and months that followed, there were meals dropped off. There were helping hands to fix what was lost. And that there was a community around us that made sure that we had what we needed. These people fanned the flames of hope for our family. Desmond Tutu is quoted as saying, "Hope is being able to see the light despite the darkness." Strategic hope requires direction, it needs energy, and it's nurtured to grow by the support of others. Strategic hope creates a beacon for us to follow even in the darkest hours. One last thing that I want to leave you with as you create your beacon of hope. Know that you've created this beacon over and over again. Strategic hope is not a one and done. It is purposeful, and it's created many times according to the situations that you're facing. Strategic hope builds resilience. Resilience not for a moment in time, but to build a full and flourishing life. Hold on, possibility exists. My wish for you as you deal with this chaos of life is that you allow the spark of hope to ignite and shine as a beacon for you to follow. Thank you.